Your brain becomes more efficient at being whatever you repeatedly practice. And so here's the actual system that I personally use, like the 5-step system that you can use in your own life, okay? The first thing is this: consume intentionally, not randomly. Ask yourself, what skill would change my life the most over the next year? And then become obsessed with that. Become obsessed with figuring out what that skill is. Maybe it's sales, for instance. You're a business owner, sales is your weakness, you need to learn sales. Okay, then you're gonna read some sales books, you're gonna get some sales courses, you might get a sales coach, and you're gonna become obsessed with learning about it and then getting onto sales calls and developing that skill set, right? So the question is, what skill would change my life the most over the next year? Not what 5 skills, what one skill will. And then you ignore almost everything else and you focus on just that thing. You focus on creating depth around that thing. Because most people, they don't have really deep knowledge. They just know a little bit about a whole bunch of things. When you really deepen your knowledge and then you deepen your skill set around that, you can then master that thing. And you're developing skills that are extremely valuable in the marketplace. And that is how you become a high value earner. And you can charge much more for your services when you have higher value. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is to reflect. Every single time that you finish reading something, or you listen to a podcast, or you listen to a YouTube video, ask yourself one question: what can I apply right now? And then what you do is you journal through what you can apply right now. And from that, you make a plan. You put it on paper. And the reason why you do this is because reflection forces your brain to take all of the information that you just learned, organize that information instead of just simply storing it away. And then from there, now that we've got it, we can actually start to use this knowledge that we just learned, which goes to step number 3, which is apply it immediately. This is the key step that most people skip. Most people want to read a book, and then they read a book and then they don't do shit with it, right? Never finish a podcast or a book without taking some sort of action from the knowledge that you just learned in that podcast or that book. Once again, the point is not to acquire knowledge. It is to use your knowledge in action to develop skills. I know a lot of really highly educated people that cannot get their shit together. They've got degrees falling off the walls, but their life is still not where they want it to be. And the reason why is because they learned a lot, which is fine, but they're not taking any action with that knowledge, and that knowledge is not becoming a skill set. And once again, you want to do this immediately, not Monday, not next week, today. The faster that you can apply what you just learned, the faster that you start creating new neural pathways, and that's real skills in your life versus just knowledge. That's step number 3. Step number 4 is to repeat. One action changes almost nothing. Repetition changes everything. Actually develop your brain differently. Like think about like learning to drive, right? Do you remember your first time? I remember my first time driving, and I was like actually on the road. Like my brain was overwhelmed. It's like the gas and there's the brakes and there's the steering wheel and there's other cars and there's turn signals. And I remember I was pulling up to a stoplight and I like slammed on the brakes because I didn't know how much pressure to use in my mom's Honda Accord. But then like months later, you know, you're like driving around having a conversation. You ever ask yourself why that is? It's because repetition of something builds automation. Like have you ever driven home from work and realized that you weren't even paying attention the entire time? And you're like, oh shit, I just got home. You have to realize it's because your brain has turned what was once a foreign skill, like driving a car, into a habit where it now becomes autopilot. Everything that you've mastered happens the exact same way. And then step number 5 is to teach it. If you really want to own an idea, teach it to somebody. Teach it to your spouse, teach it to your child, teach it to your best friend. If you live alone and you have nobody to teach it to, you can journal through what you just learned and teach it out loud to yourself as if you are teaching somebody else. I've done that many times. When I was younger, way younger, and I lived by myself and I was in my early 20s and I was just downloading all this information. I was like, I don't want to just hold on to this information. I know that one of the best ways to learn is to teach. And so what I want to do is start actually teaching this. And so the best way for you to learn something is to teach it. Teaching basically consolidates all the information and it forces your brain to organize it. And the other thing that teaching does is it exposes your gaps in your understanding, where you're starting to teach something and then you realize like there's a gap in my understanding. You go, oh, hold on, I actually need to learn this thing better. And then teaching deepens your understanding around as well. And so if we were to take like the step-by-step process, step number one, which is to consume intentionally. If we go back to my first example, which is like, I need to learn sales. Well, then I'm going to consume intentionally. Like when I was first learning sales, when I was 20 years old back in 2006, my coach told me to buy a CD that was called The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy. And so I stopped listening to music and I listened to that thing on repeat anytime I got into the car, right? So consume intentionally. I would consume just anything that I would on sales. If you're trying to learn sales, you can read Influence by Robert Cialdini, amazing book, right? So it's just the podcasts on sales. It's just the books on sales. It's just the coaches on sales. The next thing that you want to do is reflect on it. And so after you learn, okay, how do I get better at this objection handling? The next question is, how can I apply it right now? Well, then you take that objection that you just learned and you get onto your next sales phone call and you use it, which is step number 3, which is to apply it immediately. And then step number 4, you do it over and over and over again. And now objection handling, which used to be really foreign to you and really uncomfortable to you, has become much more comfortable because you're doing it over and over and over again. And now what was really uncomfortable for you is now something that you're able to do pretty much on autopilot because you've done it over and over and over again. And then last step 5 is to teach it. Find a friend or find a coworker who is also trying to get better at sales and teach. Like if it's objection handling, teach objection handling to them. Hey, I just learned something. Let me try to teach it to you. Let's try to discuss it. Let's see if we can use it on our next call. And that's how you actually start to really take knowledge, not just download it into your brain, but take that knowledge and develop it into a skill set. Because I'm going to leave you with this thought, right? Imagine somebody gave you $1 million. You'd probably protect that $1 million, right? Like you wouldn't let strangers just take pieces of it every single day throughout the day. Your attention and what goes into your brain is infinitely more valuable than $1 million. And your attention is being stolen all day long because your attention determines what your brain becomes. Your brain determines your habits determine your identity determines your life. So the question I want you to start asking yourself is this: what kind of brain do I want to build? And you get very clear on the brain that you want to build, the skills that you want to get into your life, and then every single day, educate yourself intentionally. Start doing it on purpose to start taking that information and turning it into a skill set and watch how your life changes over the next couple of years. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. Based off of what you've been watching recently, YouTube thinks out of all of my videos and all the stuff you've been watching that this video is the one that you need the most right now based off of what you've been watching. So hit that one. And if you want to make sure to never miss another video, hit that subscribe button, join us, and I'll see you on the next video.